Lightning like Steve McQueen. I'm in the fast lane when the light turns green. And I built tough, I ain't nothing but grit. Cause I made rugged blood, sweat, and spit. Yeah, like a horse I fly. Better push yourself in for a bumpy ride. I like to play hard, but I work harder. And I weather the storm cause I'm built stronger.
Hey guys, before we jump into the episode, I wanted to let you know it is brought to you by Denim. As a business owner myself, I personally know the importance of financial stability and preserving cash flow to help navigate through any freight market. With Denim's comprehensive service offering, you now have an all-in-one financial partner whose platform includes factoring, payments, freight audit, document collection management, and analytics, which help keep your business financially healthy and increase your team's time to focus on revenue-producing activities. You can also take advantage of Denim's free credit check, which they perform on all of your customers. And Denim will proactively reach out to you if they spot any signs of credit deterioration. Finally, Denim always pays your carriers first. As a broker, this is imperative to preserving your credit score in the market, which ultimately helps you become a broker of choice to your carrier partners. Are you ready to learn more? Visit denim.com to schedule a demo today. Just do me a favor and let them know that the Freight Coach sent you.
This episode is brought to you by SPI Logistics, the premier freight agent logistics firm in North America. For over 40 years, SPI has been diligently building the most successful freight agent network to provide first-class relationships for our shippers, receivers, and carrier partners. We are more than another transportation network. We are a dedicated team of professionals united by one singular purpose, and that is to expedite our agents' success. All of our agents are set up for success on day one, as they are provided with a full suite of support staff that is ready to assist them with everything from after-hours emergencies to financial and administrative needs on a no-fee basis. This way, you can focus on continuing to grow your business. There is no financial risk to start, and you have the ability to earn up to 75% in commissions. If you are looking to take control of your financial future and build your business with the backing of one of the most successful logistics firms in North America, visit www.spi3pl.com to learn more. Do me a favor and let them know that the Freight Coach sent you.
What is up, ladies and gentlemen? We are back. We are live. It is the Freight Coach podcast, the top podcast in transportation, coming to you guys every single weekday, 8:30 a.m. Pacific, 10:30 Central, to break down some industry headlines, but most importantly, provide some actual insight into what you can do with all of this information. I'm going to save the rest of the intro because I got some guests that are going to come on, and we're going to drop some truth on everybody here. But as always, you guys, if you guys get value in what you heard, subscribe to the show. You guys share it out there to your network, because if you see value, your network's going to see value as well. Tracy St. Clair, good morning. Corey Buchan, TGIF, everyone, good morning, both over on YouTube. But with that being said, I got my friends over at eCarrierCheck on the show today to break down building up a sales pipeline and everything. So Jared, Nate, welcome to the show.
What's up, brother? How are you, man?
I'm doing good. I'm intoxicated by that Nolan Ryan jersey behind you right there, man. That old school Astros look is just, dude. That too. Dude, I love it. And I love that pink too, Jared. That's a good color for you, man. You got to keep that every day.
It brings out my eyes.
It does, dude. I can see that from here, actually. So, man, what's been going on in the great state of Nebraska besides the Cornhuskers just coming out of the gate?
You know, honestly, Nebraska, really all we have is corn and the Huskers.
That's all we need.
This is all we need. This is all we have.
We got beer and bratwurst and cheese, and that's about it. And then Packers.
Yeah, and the Packers, exactly. So yeah, there's not much out here. Yeah. Nebraska is just notorious for just kind of steady Eddie and just kind of keep going. You know what I mean? The workforce in Nebraska is amazing. I really love this state. It's really, outside of real estate taxes, wonderful state to be in.
Yeah, Clark, nobody cares about Ohio State, all right? He's an Ohio State fan, all right?
He's an OH guy. I mean, OH. Yeah.
Ooh, that's what I say to Ohio State. Anybody. They're the worst, man. They're like the plague, dude. They're just fucking everywhere. I'm just kidding. I love Clark. But, dude, what? So, we're at that great point of the year where everybody starts to realize, like, holy shit, I'm so behind on sales and business development and everything else. And then, where do I go? Where do I start? And, you guys released, which, I mean, I use your guys' tool for the shipper guy. You can put the real name out there because I always forget. I just know that it's the $ one in my book when I go out there, because the leads that come from that, and because the ability to source shippers and find lead generation and everything else and kind of where to start. You guys are attacking that from kind of both sides, right? And finding capacity, but also finding shippers as well with that.
Yep. Yeah, I honestly, when we started to build eCarrierCheck, which by the way, we're about to come up on our 5-year mark. I'm excited about that. Having the 5-year coin is kind of cool.
Hell yeah.
But our ultimate goal was to really help people be a standalone on their own, without load boards, without having that ability. We really wanted to give you the ability to kind of go find some carriers, go find some clients, and go make a living. Go do what you need to do,
and never have to pass up an opportunity either.
Exactly.
So.
Yeah, no, I mean that's exactly it. And so, because on your guys' show, are you guys still doing live cold calls on the show to shippers?
Yeah. We have one that's releasing last week. We actually just did one this week. It was out of control. I think I did like a 20-minute cold call. This lady told me everything. I mean,
really,
it was the most amazing call ever. I swear to God, you're only as good as the questions you ask. And this lady just opened it up, man. It was incredible.
Dude, and that's exactly it, right? Because I think there's such a false sense of instant gratification in business development, right? I mean, Jared, you get this because you started your business, right? What day one, $1 was like, right? And just like I do, I know what day one, $1 was like, and how eventually you kind of hit that wall of, fuck, nobody's going to come develop business for me. If I want to, stay in, I got to make money. I got to get revenue. But the best way to go about it, and, I put a post up the other day about this, the anxiety is real. I don't care who says anything. If you're not getting a little bit of anxiety when you're about to go out and talk to complete strangers and to develop business, I think you're a fucking psychopath for starters. But, on top of that though, for me, it's you got to build up, right? I look at it, again, just like in your business and my business, man, it all started with one, then one turned into two to four to every, I went to public school, so I'll stop trying to double my math at that point. But, I just look at it as you got to start somewhere, but then again, you start and then you build that process around that. And then you just find yourself and you follow that routine, because eventually, I mean, dude, I have bad days too, where the first couple of calls, I'm like, who the fuck am I? I'll say something and be like, what the fuck was that? But you got to break through that and keep following that process, because by sometimes the 10th, 15th call, you're in the zone and you're flowing, you're able to build up and pick up on those conversations.
Yeah. Honestly, I mean, if you're finding yourself lost in phone calls, I mean, where we live, you can't really go out and shake hands because we're in a small area. But if you live in an area that's prime, take a break from phone calls and go shake some hands too. And that'll give you some anxiety, but oh well, you got it anyways.
Dude,
go ahead.
No, you go.
I was gonna say, honestly, I think building your pipeline is probably one of the most interesting, just parts of all of sales. We start with a lot of people that are fairly new at eCarrierCheck, and these cats are like, I just need to call Walmart and I'm going to be good, and we had another cat that came on and he's like, I'm just going to start calling all these restaurants, like PF Chang's, they got freight, and I'm like, I don't know how that's going to go, and so I think what I really like to do is just kind of slow people down and make sure that we're calling the right people. Getting the right people on your pipeline is the first step to life here. And you and I've talked about this. I've known you for my entire freight software career, which I love. I think I launched freight, eCarrierCheck, and then I met you 6 months in. And it was like my north shining star. I friggin' loved every second of it. But we've said this from the beginning. Find a niche.
Yeah.
And stick with it. And those niches don't have to be industry specific. It can be equipment. It can be a region of the country. It can be just, it can be something like that. And I think that's where, when you get into your pipeline and your pipeline management, you got to put the right people on your list, because calling PF Chang's ain't going to work.
Dude, I think that, again, I look at it as, if based on what are your current capabilities too. Because a lot of these large customers, because everybody wants the Walmarts of the world, but could you even make a dent in what they actually do in a day? And then, because it's again, if they turned you on and they dropped 100 loads on your load board or your TMS the next day, are you going to be able to actually do that if there's one of you? No, you're not, right? So it's like, why? And I'm not saying don't shoot for the moon. Go for anybody, right? Like do your thing. But you have to understand who are you actually able to accommodate from their freight needs and everything else. And then, again, here's another massive, this might be an eye opener for a lot of you. It takes years to prospect and onboard accounts of that magnitude, right? So if your strategy is, I'm just going to call Walmart and Coca-Cola and then they're just going to get me set up and then I'll be fine, you're going to wait 36 to 72 months before they might even remotely take your phone call at that point, right? So again, it's like, who are you going after? And then building up that pipeline on top of that, like I talk about owning your backyard. And that's something that we, again, I try to be as transparent as possible. I mean, I'm not going to tell anybody what's in my bank account or anything like that, which newsflash, I'm a startup, so you can fucking do the math on that. But we wasted so much time going after the wrong business. We wasted so much time emailing people when we shouldn't have, because I got caught up in that bug and I've admitted that and I will openly admit that because I'm not perfect. But over these last 90 days, man, we just went straight back to the basics. Cold calls, pounding the pavement, getting out there and talking to local providers, local shippers and everything else. It's been a massive game changer. And I don't just cold show up anywhere. I just, out of respect for people's time, I like to give a heads up. I like to call people on Tuesday and say, hey, I'm going to, are you open on Thursday for me to stop by at 10 a.m., drop off a business card and introduce myself. And it's the feedback is exponentially higher on doing it that way than any other method for business development at that time. And I want to challenge everybody out there to do that, right? Everybody in your area should know who you are. Everybody should.
Yeah, absolutely. To have a presence, not only geographically, but over the phone. I mean, absolutely. And I love how you said getting back to the basics. Honestly, we hear both sides of the story. And I'll give you an example. When nobody could find a friggin' truck, they were calling us. And now when nobody can find a shipper, they're calling us, right? And I think what's interesting right now is, man, I tell you what, people need value right away. And so going back to the basics, tell them what you do and how you do it. And what I love about you, Chris, I got to give you some chaps here, is you just kind of dominate. Like I called them to talk to you and you're like, yeah, I'm going to move freight from Arizona to California. Yeah. And I was like, okay.
Very specific.
I was like, this is friggin' awesome. And we met a broker this week. I loved this guy. We met this broker this week and he goes, yeah, I just dominate I-80. And I go, well, what happens if they give you I-70 freight? And he goes, I don't want it. He goes, I just kill I-80. He goes, from Chicago or Sacramento, I bring the house. And I was like, all right.
That's value.
Dude, and like I had a Harmon Chima with Chima Freight Lines on a while back here, and he had said with his fleet, he's like, we just for a while when they started out, like now they're big enough to where they expand out. But he's like, we dominated the I-5 for a very long time. We went Seattle to LA, and that's all we did. He was like, you would be hard pressed for a while there to go a couple miles without seeing a Chima truck going down the I-5. So it's like, I just think like, again, when you're out there, the spray and pray methodologies, I think what honestly kills so many people in a, because it's like I'm building a plan, right? Because again, I think that everybody's got this vision of, I have this business, now I'm going to become a millionaire. But how are you going to start? And then what are you going to do? And what are you going to develop and build up that pipeline? Because just because people are in your area and, that doesn't mean that they're going to work with you, right? And I think that there's a massive misconception out there that you have a LLC, you should be successful. And it's like, how are you going to build that pipeline? How are you going to fill that up? And then I think another thing too, and this is, kind of spreading it out a little bit further. So many people get that customer and then they stop selling because they're like, I'm good now. I got a customer who gives me 50 loads a week or whatever that looks like. And that's not like, I'm knocking on that, but like, you're never in a position where you're good because and that's why when I'm sitting here talking about, I think that the biggest exodus is going to come from freight brokers is a lot of people that I talk to, they will admit off in private. They're like, yeah, man, we got like one account that accounts for like 90% of our revenue. And it's like, And then they're always sitting there and saying like, yeah, we got to sell more. We got to sell more, but we just don't. And I'm like, fuck, man, I would be shitting my pants if that is, and especially if you weren't selling, you know, like if you have that one account that dominates all of your volume and you're out there developing business still, that's one thing. Because again, everybody, when they're starting, you're going to get an account that's going to take up a lot of your time, or two accounts that take up a lot of your time, but you got to keep selling on top of that, because you're never in a position to where you're going to be good. Because what if your contact leaves, right? What if your contact gets a new job and they don't take you with, and then the new person comes in and kicks out their entire network? What are you going to do when you got 30 people depending on one account, essentially, that pays all their salaries? I like that. To me, is the stuff that keeps me up at night.
Yeah. Honestly, I've actually been there. Right before we launched this software, we had an account that accounted for 60% of our business in that brokerage, and we lost it. And 60% is rough. You know what I mean? And you're grinding. Everybody's on the phone. Everybody's intensity is different. And it's interesting. You know, I love to fish, you know, and there's two different types of fishing, right? There's the fishing where I'm sitting on the shore and I'm hanging out, relaxing with my kid and just throwing a line in, hopefully I pull something. There's also the fishing when I'm depending on it to eat that night, right? Yeah. And so when you have two different mindsets, man, I tell you what, I think it's really important to keep that second mindset. Even when you get an account, you've got to be intentional with your pipeline management and just constantly, even if it's 20 minutes a day, doesn't matter. 20 minutes a day, and you're just constantly making those calls. You're constantly sending those emails. Because right now, here's what's really more interesting than anything that we've noticed, right? Because we make calls all the time. All the time we're making calls. It used to be, Nate and I would make calls. We could get a shipper in 3 to 5 calls consistently, right? Now that number has now gone from 6 to 10.
Yep.
Right? Because it's so hard. The biggest thing is that this industry is all scared now. They're freaked out, and trying to build trust is brutal now. And so you got to think all these objections are just an expression of fear.
Yeah.
Right. And you're just sitting there, and people just need to understand that if you don't stay consistent, it's not just going to keep building. You didn't get the shape you're in. By the way, you look great, right? You look incredible. You didn't get to that point because you worked out on Saturdays.
Oh, are you talking to me on that one?
Yeah, you look freaking great, bro. You look, I mean, I could have got a guy crush going on. You look hot, bro.
Man, I got to have Jared on. I didn't even ask him to say this, dude. I'm not talking about myself.
I'm telling you, I want to see behind that computer screen right now. Let's get it done. But you didn't get that way because you were working out on Saturdays. Yeah. You got that way because you worked out every day, and you were there doing it at night. You were doing it in the mornings and evenings, and you were watching what you were eating. God, you look good. You look friggin' awesome.
But like that's the thing. And, you know, again, like to tie in a lot of that, that's where a lot of my perspectives really started to come into place, right? Because it's like when I really took back control of my health, I would because I found myself getting so pissed off because I'm like, why didn't I lose any weight today? I'm doing all of these things right. I'm eating the right foods. I'm exercising. Nothing's happening. And then 2 to 3 weeks in, boom, I'm down 5 pounds. And I'm like, fuck, let's go. And then another 2 to 3 weeks, there's another 5 pounds. And I'm like, all right, it's that compound effect. But I would have never got there if I didn't hold myself accountable on your daily actions. And that's why I'm like, you got to build up, right? Because like there's so many people who want to go 0 to 100. And that's why I threw that 100 call marker out there, because people are like, oh, just make 100 calls a day. Yeah, eventually you could probably get to that. But why are you rushing into those things? That's where you come out the gate hot, but then all that anxiety and fear really starts to creep in because you're not getting anywhere. Like, I mean, I like what you brought up on that. It used to be 3 to 5 calls. Now it's 6 to 10 before you can even get somebody on the phone. And that, like, dude, I've seen it switch so much out here recently where now there's actually a phone option for logistics. And it's like, oh, press 7 for logistics. You're like, boom, 7. Email us this, like they're not even taking phone calls and all of that stuff. So again, what are you going to do though? Are you going to act like, Miljan here says it best, only the paranoid survive, like what are you going to do here to develop business in a market where seemingly people aren't doing anything. And your analogy of it's a lot different when you're fishing to cast a line in with your kid as opposed to fishing because you got to eat. You know, like I've been saying this a lot lately, and I'm going to say this again. I don't have a backup plan. I don't have a 401k anymore. I have every dollar I've ever made in my life invested into all of this stuff, right? Everything that where we have now is earned, right? It's dollar in, dollar out. Every dollar I make in revenue, I got to stretch into $5 of value out there to build my business and grow it up, right? So it's like that sense of urgency is there. Like I can't have a bad day. You know, like I got to show up. I have to hold myself accountable to hit my metrics every single day. And again, I built up to that, right? Like I didn't just start off doing this, you know, like I didn't just start off doing anything in business. Like everybody sucks right away. And then you get a little less shitty as you progress and you continue to hold yourself accountable in that process.
Absolutely. If you haven't read it, the Compound Effect by Darren Hardy is truly one of my favorite books. Because it really hits on what you said. And honestly, refining your processes and making sure, the guys that are making those 100 calls a day or 60 calls a day, we met with a guy that just started in the industry. What he's 60 days in, wasn't he?
60 days.
How many calls was he?
100 calls a day. I mean, he's maybe talking to like maybe 15, 20 people, right?
Yeah.
The right people, but 100 calls a day easily.
And I said, well, why aren't you, because he was just making 60 calls a day. And I said, well, you've got to, those 15 people that at least took the time to talk to you, you've got to add an extra layer in today's market. And that extra layer is going to be value. Because if you're not adding value, and I'm not talking anything crazy here, by the way. I'm not talking like, hey, I'm just checking in with you. I'm talking about, hey, I found an article in your industry. I thought this was interesting. I figured I'd share it with you. Hey, I'm going to send a handwritten note, right? Hey, I'm going to just try to differentiate myself and not say that I got a damn truck in your area. Everyone has to take a moment to zig right now instead of zag with their sales pipeline and their sales conversations. And that's in their emails. That's in their texts. That's in everybody's got to be, we've all got to sound different. We've got to step up as an industry because right now, man, people sound the same. They're all saying the same thing. We've got to have that extra layer.
And that's where they're getting lost, Chris, because we have people that send us emails and send us like their sales calls, if you will, and their follow-up calls. They're not adding the right value. They're adding value, but maybe to the wrong industry or and that's where they get lost. They're like, well, how do I add value? What's that even look like? And I get it. Like you got to dig deeper.
Yeah, you do have to dig deeper. And I can give you some examples. If you call the shipper that's in Southern California and say, hey, I see they're predicting that fuel is going to go up 23 cents over the next, 3 months. What are you doing in order to make sure that you're managing your carrier, costs and keeping that at an even flow instead of seeing a spike later in January 2025, right? Like you've got to come up with new things that make more sense to give them the value because they all have a boss. They all are being held accountable. They all have a budget, right? And you've got to put yourself in their shoes right now. And that's more important than just thinking about yourself and feeding yourself. You got to give value to them.
So your guys' customer, are you guys like helping people with their calls and their sales process and everything then? Because I just heard Nate say that they send us their recordings and stuff like that. So are you guys actively working with your users to help them out in their sales process?
Anyone and everyone, man. They'll on our YouTube people we'll drop our email and they're sending it. They're not even users, and we'll listen to them. We'll take an hour or two a day, and we're like, hey, we would have said this, or we would have done that. But yeah, we make it a pretty busy day with those.
Yeah, we've actually taken the time to write up like an analysis approach to a cold call. And I'm not perfect by any means, but I've had the opportunity to make thousands of cold calls myself. I've seen thousands of cold calls. I've also done probably thousands of walk-in cold calls as well because I was a street LTL guy 15 years ago, right? Oh, wow. And I've made calls in every friggin' city in the Midwest, Chicago, Kansas City, Denver, Des Moines, right? And so we broke it down, cold calls to, what's your tone? What's your speed? How's your accent, right? How can we make you sound a little bit better? And we try to help people. Right. Our software is a niche-based software where you have the ability to find any kind of truck in this country and any type of shipper that would make the most sense, right? And and we match those up so that you can kind of reverse engineer. Hey, I'm really good at vans in New England, or and you can find those things, right? But if we can add value to them from a software's perspective, that's why we have our YouTube show, which is incredible. We just passed over 5,000 subscribers on there. I was pretty excited about that.
Yeah. Let's go.
But also, we just want to see our industry level up as a whole.
Yeah.
Because that's the big thing. All ships rise. Let's go. You know what I mean?
I'm right there with you. And it again, like everything that I talk about on my show is stuff that I actually apply in my business, right? Like, because nothing, like ultimately, man, nothing is proprietary. And then, really fundamentally, when it boils down to it, I know that 99% of the people who listen to what we say on our podcast, it goes in one ear and out the other because they think that we're lying and they think that there's a better way out there. But like, that, like, again, I always try and, preface everything by like, hey, this is just somebody who actually cold calls shippers. All right. Like, I'm actively speaking to prospects every single day. So take everything I say with a grain of salt. You can go listen to the person out there who doesn't broker freight, who just talks, and isn't actually invested into the industry from that perspective. Or you can listen to the individuals who are actively doing the job, right? Like, and that's why I put like my good buddy Chris Brewer from River City Logistics. Dude, him and his team has built a fucking massive company. He's out there telling people all the time what to do, what to say, like, hey, try this. And it's like, I just don't understand how people just don't see what he's giving out millions of dollars worth of value. Right there. But again, you want to go and follow somebody else who doesn't even fucking broker freight anymore, but they're trying to sell you some bullshit, and it's just like, I just don't get that. Right. Because it's like I said, I bit that email bug too. I thought there was an easier way. Well, I'm here to tell you guys again, cold calls, site visits, That's all you should be focusing on right now from a business development standpoint. Now, again, a little caveat. Is that going to work for everybody? Absolutely not. All right. I am not saying that this is going to instantly guarantee anything, but it has exponentially expedited the sales process inside of my organization. We have gotten so much more face time with people. We have got so much more feedback. Again, I've already said this on the show this week, but I'm going to say it again. The site visits I went on last week, in the 4 minutes that I met with these facilities on site, I found out 6 months worth of cold calling information in 4 minutes of just showing up there. Yeah. All right. That's the ROI that I'm talking about. Whether that leads to business or not, again, I'm finding out how their business works, where I would have never got that way if I would have just cold called. Yeah.
Honestly, this is why I read so many books, is I can find out 10 years of history in about 2 hours of me sitting down and listening to this thing. You know what I mean? I'm with you completely. I think picking up the phone, being in front of these people, like Nate said earlier, that's just, it's almost everything. The weird ChatGPT flow of email and stuff.
Dude.
Oh God, it just got so dirty and clustered, and it's just this weird funnel thing. Your emails, if you are sending emails, they better be short, to the point, and they better be really intentional with that specific shipper.
Yeah.
And that's really the only way that I've seen emails work. We've seen emails work, but they're really they're very specific equipment, specific lanes.
Yeah. Few and far between, right? Like if I look at it from a comparative analysis, if I send down 100 emails a day, I get more message blocked than fucking anything. But if I make 100 cold calls in a week, I'll talk to 20 people, and then I'll at least get the right person's information. I know that, all right, boom, now I'm gonna start moving that down the line of that's the prospecting line, my pipeline. I'm gonna know, like, all right, boom, now I gotta talk to Karen. All right, I got Karen's email address, I got her phone number. Now I'm gonna start my intention, I'm going towards her. And then boom, I talk to Karen. Karen's like, hey, actually, you know what? You need to talk to Tim. Tim's the overall decision maker. We make everything at a corporate level. All right, boom. Now I know that I'm going in the right direction, as opposed to the spray and pray of an email. You don't know where it's going. And then some of these ones, like, dude, I get email solicitations from other brokers to my freight brokerage email, asking me if they can quote my freight and that they can do drive-in, reefer, all this shit. And I'm like, no wonder these fucking prospects get so pissed when I call them. Because like, if that's this out there. Like, I get why you're upset that I'm calling, because you instantly lump me in. You're just like everybody else.
Yeah, you got to differentiate yourself quick to build trust and relate to these people.
Yeah, can't copy paste.
That's rampant, man. But dude, we're already almost at our 30-minute mark here. But like, what's something, again, this why I love Jared and Nate so much is not once have they even mentioned their company name here, you guys, but they're out here telling you how you guys can go out and get new business and stuff like that. And but like, what are you guys working on right now for your guys' customers? Like, what's going on with eCarrierCheck?
Yeah, honestly, just making it a better experience. What's nice about us is we get their feedback and we make it happen. But we're working on trying to just help them make a better experience with finding shippers, vetting carriers, and sourcing more carriers. Like I said, we don't want you to miss out on any opportunity out there. And that's what's nice about eCarrierCheck. You can go fishing anytime you want, all day. As much as you can hammer that phone, continue fishing.
Yeah, I think something that's really interesting about right now is so hard to get a new client, right? And being able to expand your current client's business in other modes and trying to diversify in there, I think is really important right now. We work with some of the larger brokers in the South, and that's what they've been doing. They just, hey, I've been covering your flatbeds. What do you got for vans, or what do you got for in the bulk world? And we're seeing people expand that way. So we help with that side of things. And then the shipper side is really interesting. We have 42,000 scraped leads in our system. Behind that, we have 200,000 scraped leads, and or not fully scraped. So we're working through that. We are a startup, man, and we got 4 people that are grinding. Our 2 programmers sit 12 feet away. They're probably 18 feet away. I bet they're in the kitchen. And then, because this is what you do. And then it's Nate and I, and we're just a startup, and we're trying to eat every day, and we just try to make an impact and help people one at a time.
I love it. How does anybody reach out to find out more about what you guys got going on?
Yeah, check out our YouTube channel, eCarrierCheck.com. We're always posting on there. We do live cold calls. We do a lot of different value things for carriers and brokers to kind of help them get direct shippers or direct brokers, or just how to run your business. We want to help you guys get there, because I got a lot of scars and Nate's got a lot of scars. So check out our YouTube channel, or check out eCarrierCheck.com. You can sign up for a demo, or just give us a call, man. We answer the phone. Yeah. It's us, man. It's us.
I won't put you on hold, I promise.
Yeah. We don't even have hold music. I don't know what to tell you. It's us. So, this is what we do. But 5-year anniversary is coming up, and I'm super jacked for it. I think, honestly, we're going to go Nebraska style. We're going to deep fat fry a prime rib, and we're going to just in Miller Lights, and we're just going to enjoy life.
I love it.
It's coming up. We may just go live and it's just a deep fat fried prime rib. We don't care.
Dude, there we go. I love that. Well, hey guys, thank you so much for joining me. As always, you guys, if you guys can't find Nate or Jared or eCarrierCheck online, hit me up. I will gladly put you guys in contact with them. We will be back on Monday, 8:30 a.m. Pacific, 10:30 Central. As always, if you guys got value in what you heard, subscribe to the show, you guys. Share it out there to your network, because if you see value, your network's going to see value as well. I appreciate you guys. I love you guys, and we'll be talking to you soon.